Here's a gift for your wedding. Enjoy it with our son, said Mary, my mother-in-law, as she handed me a teddy bear. It was cute, but I couldn't fully appreciate it. Mary and I hadn't been getting along, so her sudden kindness was confusing. I met Tom at our gym when he kindly helped me with a tricky machine. We hit it off and soon started dating. A year later, on my birthday, he proposed. Married life with Tom has been great, but I've had some worries, especially about my relationship with his mom, Mary. When we visited his family's mansion, I was surprised by their wealth. Tom, however, is down to earth and not into extravagant spending, which I admire. My dad always stresses the importance of financial independence, so Tom's frugal mindset resonated with me. But when I finally met my in-laws, Mary seemed to dislike me from the start. She made a hurtful comment about my work as a remote worker, implying I just play on the computer all day. It stung, despite my efforts to work hard and be responsible. Childhood friend love stories sound nice, but maybe they're not so common in reality. Since Mary's mood didn't improve, we decided it was best to leave. On our way home, Tom kept apologizing to me. I'm really sorry about my mom. She's been upset about Emily and took it out on you. I'll talk to my dad about it later. Mary's behavior made me question if marrying Tom was the right choice. But I still loved him and wasn't ready to give up easily. I made a secret vow to prove Mary wrong. After our wedding, John suggested we move into a guest house on their property. It's been empty for years, he explained. As you get older, it's easy to lose touch with friends. We'd love to have you nearby. Feeling uneasy, I called my mom and showed her the teddy bear. She immediately told me to get rid of it. Shocked by my mom's reaction, I hurried to the police station. My name is Sarah, I'm 28, and I work from home. I've been happily married to Tom for a year, though we don't have kids yet. I met Tom at our gym when he kindly helped me with a tricky machine. We hit it off and soon started dating. A year later, on my birthday, he proposed. Married life with Tom has been great, but I've had some worries, especially about my relationship with his mom, Mary. When we visited his family's mansion, I was surprised by their wealth. Tom, however, is down to earth and not into extravagant spending, which I admire. My dad always stresses the importance of financial independence, so Tom's frugal mindset resonated with me. But when I finally met my in-laws, Mary seemed to dislike me from the start. She made a hurtful comment about my work as a remote worker, implying I just play on the computer all day. It stung despite my efforts to work hard and be responsible. Childhood friend love stories sound nice, but maybe they're not so common in reality. Since Mary's mood didn't improve, we decided it was best to leave. On our way home, Tom kept apologizing to me. I'm really sorry about my mom. She's been upset about Emily and took it out on you. I'll talk to my dad about it later. Mary's behavior made me question if marrying Tom was the right choice. But I still loved him and wasn't ready to give up easily. I made a secret vow to prove Mary wrong. After our wedding, John suggested we move into a guest house on their property. It's been empty for years, he explained. As you get older, it's easy to lose touch with friends. We'd love to have you nearby. The guest house was spotless and roomy, much cozier than your average home, even though it had been vacant for years. After talking it over with Tom, I accepted his dad's kind offer, but this decision brought its own set of problems. Mary, who lived nearby, started dropping by uninvited and picking at everything. She'd nitpick about the cleanliness of the house or criticize my cooking. She even belittled my remote work, saying it wasn't real work and comparing me unfavorably to Emily, Tom's ex, who apparently excelled at everything domestic. These comments always seemed to come when Tom wasn't around. At first, I tried to defend myself, but Mary was expert at twisting my words, leaving me frustrated. Eventually, I realized engaging with her only stressed me out more. So I started brushing off her remarks and letting them slide. This seemed to annoy her even more, so she began resorting to more direct forms of harassment, like hiding community newsletters from me and withholding messages from neighbors. Her actions caused me to miss important community events, which landed me in trouble. One day, as I was folding laundry, she purposely messed it up or handled it with dirty hands, leaving stains. She'd help herself to food from my fridge without asking and even opened packages I'd ordered online, criticizing me for being wasteful. When her actions started causing actual damage, I reached my breaking point. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I decided to confront Mary directly. Enough is enough, Mary. Even if you have issues because of Emily, this is going too far. Why do you keep harassing me like this? I stood firm, arms crossed, ready to confront her. Mary seemed surprised by my determination and quickly fired back. I faced challenges as a new bride too, but I never complained to my in-laws like you do. You're quite headstrong. Once you marry into a family, shouldn't you serve and respect your husband's parents? That's how it used to be. You think it's all right to treat me this way just because you went through it as a bride? I asked, stunned. Mary's response was chillingly firm. Yes, I do, and I won't stop. I can't accept someone like you as Tom's wife. If you don't like it, just divorce him and leave. Mary's words left me speechless with disbelief. It was clear that reasoning with her was futile. I didn't want to burden Tom, but it seemed I had no other option. When I finally opened up to him about his mother's behavior, he was distressed. What is my mother thinking? I've told her countless times not to bother you, and now she's dragging the neighbors into it. Bad-mouthing is one thing, but it's unacceptable when she starts interfering with our daily lives. I'm sorry you have to deal with this. I'll have a serious talk with her. That night, Tom confronted Mary at our home. Despite her tearful protests, he stood his ground. Enough is enough. If this happens again, I won't forgive you. Thankfully, Mary stopped coming over for a while, giving us some much-needed peace. But it didn't last long. A week later, just when I thought things were settling down, the doorbell rang, and there stood Mary, wearing a wide smile. She was holding a cute teddy bear for some reason, and I couldn't quite figure out why. I thought, puzzled by the situation. Mary, what brings you here today? I asked. She seemed meek and apologetic as she responded, I'm sorry for everything. Tom scolding me made me realize how childish I was being, taking out my frustrations about Emily on you. I accepted her apology, albeit with confusion. Well, I'm glad you understand. Actually, I came to apologize properly. I realized I never gave you a proper wedding gift, so I thought this teddy bear would be nice. Isn't it cute? I wish you and Tom happiness, she said, offering me the bear. Though I thanked her, the gift didn't make much sense to me. I'm not particularly fond of teddy bears or stuffed animals in general. For a wedding gift, something practical like kitchenware or appliances would have been more appropriate, especially considering our recent conflicts. Could there be a hidden motive behind this gesture? Feeling uneasy, I decided to consult my mom, who lived nearby. I've confided in her about Mary's harassment before. When I showed her the teddy bear, her usually calm face lit up suddenly. Sarah, your dad brought some sweets as a souvenir. Let's put the teddy bear in the living room and have some coffee first. Help me get things ready, my mom said, her behavior seeming strange. Despite my unease, I went to the kitchen. As soon as I entered, my mom grabbed my shoulder with a serious expression. You need to get rid of that thing quickly. Otherwise, something terrible will happen. What? Why the sudden urgency? Is there something wrong with the teddy bear? I asked, confused. Calm down and listen. That stuffed animal is... After hearing her explanation, I was speechless at Mary's outrageous behavior. But at the same time, I ran out of patience. I understand now. Then I need to return the gesture, I said, placing the teddy bear in the living room and waiting for Tom to come home. When he saw it, he asked, Isn't it cute? Did you buy this? Welcome home. No, this is a wedding gift from your mother, I replied. From Mom? Why would she give a teddy bear? Tom asked, puzzled. I pulled him aside to explain the situation and asked for his help with my plan. He nodded in agreement. A few hours later, Tom and I found ourselves in a heated argument. You preferred Emily because she was nicer, just like your mom said. That's why you wanted to marry her, I accused him. I never said that. You're reading too much into it. Tom retorted, the argument escalating into harsh words. That's it. Marrying someone like you was a mistake. Let's get divorced right now, he declared. And just as he said that, Mary burst into our house. She stood at the doorway with a broad smile plastered on her face. Tom, you finally see the truth. She's the worst wife, strong-willed, not cute at all, and so presumptuous. I always knew she wasn't right for you. Divorce her immediately and kick her out of this house. Mary's delight quickly turned to confusion. Tom and I, who moments ago were supposedly locked in a fierce argument, now shared a cold gaze as we stared back at her. I addressed her slowly. You noticed we were fighting, didn't you? Mary stumbled in her response, attempting to cover up her timing to enter our home. It was just a hunch. I just felt it. She quickly defended, but her shifting eyes betrayed her. Don't lie. Tell the truth. You rigged a teddy bear with a surveillance camera and a bug, didn't you? I accused, revealing what my mom had noticed and told me about when I returned home. She had suspected something when she heard about Mary's gift, recalling a similar crime reported on the news involving a woman being spied on through a stuffed animal. Mary's expression froze in realization. On my way back, I went to the police station to report this. They should be arriving any minute now, I continued, watching as panic flickered across Mary's face. That's ridiculous. Don't joke about this. Calling the police over such a thing is an overreaction. Call them back and cancel it right now, she pleaded desperately. Planting cameras and listening devices in someone's home is a serious crime. It's your fault. You were so insolent that I felt I had to find something to hold over you. You are an outrageous woman. Mary tried to shift the blame, lashing out in anger. Tom finally reached his breaking point with his mother. Enough is enough. I've never been more ashamed to call you my mother. Mom, I thought you regretted mistreating Sarah, but then you pull something like this. Please don't be angry, Tom. I was doing it for you, Mary tried to explain. So committing a crime is justified. I shouldn't have been lenient just because you're my mother. I'm going to report this to Dad, and I'm cutting ties with you. Stay away from Sarah and me, Tom declared firmly. Mary began to scream, attempting to apologize through tears. Tom halted her. You're apologizing to the wrong person, he said, turning to me. Sarah, I'm sorry. I felt like I was losing Tom to you and made a foolish mistake. I deeply regret it. I won't oppose you again. Please forgive me, she pleaded desperately. But after everything she put me through, including the disturbing teddy bear incident, forgiveness was out of the question. I will never forgive you. I reached out to you multiple times and you ruined it. How could I forgive being given such a disgusting gift? Sorry might work for children, but as adults we must face the consequences of our actions, I told her firmly. Despite her continued pleas, neither Tom nor I felt any sympathy. Later the police arrived, giving her a stern warning. Weeks later, John divorced her and kicked her out of the house. Apparently he had long been frustrated with her reckless spending. Combined with her mistreatment of me and the teddy bear incident, he had had enough. Now she lives in a rundown apartment, struggling with multiple part-time jobs, a consequence of her actions. I hope she uses this opportunity to reconsider her choices and change for the better. As for me, I'm grateful to live in peace, surrounded by the kindness of Tom and John. In just a few months, we'll be welcoming our long-awaited baby into the world. We're filled with anticipation for the day our little one arrives.
Why did someone get buried in the garden? I quickly covered my daughter's mouth as she blurted out the question. It was supposed to be a happy day celebrating our new house. I worried Ruby, the host, might react badly if my daughter embarrassed her. My brother had warned me about Ruby's temper. Thankfully, I managed to smooth things over. Later, as we were leaving, I found my daughter chatting with something by the flower bed. Suddenly, Ruby swung a bat at her. Sarah, I cried out, reaching for her. My name is Avon. I'm 35, and I live with my 5-year-old daughter, Sarah. My husband works away, so we see him rarely. It gets lonely without him. Thankfully, my parents live close by, just a 5-minute drive away. We visit them often, but sometimes there are issues when we go over. Yvonne, there's a problem again? You're here so often, Yvonne. Isn't that too much? It's pointless for you to stay married. Those sharp words were from Ruby, my sister-in-law. My parents, along with my older brother Eugene and his wife Ruby, were living together temporarily. Eugene was building a new house, so they stayed with our parents until it was ready. Even if your husband's away, are you relying on your parents too much? Ruby, a year older than me, wasn't necessarily mean, but she was assertive and a bit snarky. I've never liked her, not since she started dating my brother. I still don't get what he sees in her. I never understood why she was so tough on me, her sister-in-law. Plus, she didn't seem to enjoy kids, especially my daughter. Grandma, let's play, Sarah said, pulling my mother's hand excitedly. Ruby made a clearly annoyed face. It's exhausting when Sarah's here. She's so noisy. Yvonne, you really need to discipline her more. It'll create problems later on. Those comments always made me uneasy. I'd only visited because Sarah wanted to see her grandparents, but Ruby's remarks always gave me a headache. The second issue was about my daughter Sarah. She has a strange ability to see things others can't and sense certain things. At first, we didn't believe it, but after she accurately found lost items and other eerie incidents, we started to accept it. It was a family secret we kept hidden. I never thought it would come out like this. Finally, the long cohabitation was ending. My brother and his wife's new house was ready, and they were moving out soon. I was looking forward to it. Living together had been tough. Ruby whispered to me, and I could only manage a weak smile. It wasn't just hard for her. I was relieved our parents' home would finally be peaceful. My daughter looked at me curiously. "Mom, why do you act differently around Ruby? You're more relaxed with Grandma and Eugene." "Well, you see, Eugene and I grew up together, but Ruby only recently joined our family through marriage." My daughter seemed unsure. "Sorry, was that confusing?" "No, I understand, but it's sad." "Sad?" I asked, puzzled. Sarah nodded. "It's sad that we finally became a family, and now we're going to be separated again soon." When Sarah speaks like that, it's oddly convincing. Separated. Could it be that Eugene and his wife are getting divorced? While it would be a relief for me, I feel bad for Eugene if he's upset. So they just finished building their new house, and now the idea of them divorcing so soon is hard to grasp. I couldn't understand it, so I simply asked Sarah to promise not to talk about it elsewhere and decided not to think about it too much. Sometime after Eugene and his wife moved, we got an invitation to their housewarming party. We wrapped a nice gift of money, and the 5 of us, including my parents, Sarah, and me, went over. Eugene's house was about a 20-minute drive from our parents' place. Since my small car couldn't fit all 5 of us, we had to use my father's car. It was an old manual transmission, which made me nervous, but my father is a safer driver than I am, so it should be fine. "It's pretty impressive to me that you can drive a stick shift," I said to him. When we arrived, I was immediately struck by the beauty of the place. It was a brand new build indeed. The exterior alone was impressive. The yard was spacious, and there was even a new flower bed near the bay window. There weren't any flowers yet, just soil, but it was still impressive. "Wow, it's so big," Sarah exclaimed, running around the yard with joy. "Hey, Sarah," I called out, trying to catch up to her, but Eugene stopped me. "Let her play. It's okay if she wants to enjoy the big yard." "Oh, thank you," I replied, trusting Eugene's judgment. I kept an eye on Sarah to make sure she stayed safe. While she stayed in the yard, Sarah wouldn't get lost or bother anyone. I found myself daydreaming about having a house of our own when Ruby came over, loudly reprimanding us from a distance. "Hey, Yvonne, you should be keeping a closer eye on Sarah." "Oh, did she do something?" Sarah had been playing around, but she hadn't caused any trouble. I couldn't recall anything that would upset Ruby, but she seemed angry. Is it normal to let kids run wild at a housewarming? It's quite disruptive, don't you think? "I'm sorry, Eugene said it was fine, so I thought it was okay." That's just Eugene being too polite to say anything. Don't take it personally. I couldn't afford to upset Ruby further. I had seen Eugene endure Ruby's outbursts many times before. "I apologize. I'll make sure she behaves." I went after Sarah, who had just dashed past me. As I approached, I found her crouched by the flower bed, staring intently. All she could see was dirt. No flowers had bloomed yet. "What's so fascinating, Sarah? What are you doing?" When I asked from above, my daughter looked up and said, "Why is there a person buried in the garden?" "What?" After a moment to process her words, I instinctively covered my daughter's mouth. Of all things, she had to say that here during my brother and his wife's housewarming. It was meant to be a joyous occasion, but if Sarah said something inappropriate, it could cause trouble. Ruby had a temper, as my brother had warned me. It seemed my brother had heard, but fortunately, Ruby was engrossed in conversation with Mom and hadn't noticed. "Look, Sarah, what a lovely house. Isn't it beautiful? Let's go inside. I caught my brother's eye, his expression mixed, and tried to distract my daughter as we moved. I kept my hand over her mouth, but Sarah squirmed free and said, "Mom, it's strange. Why aren't we helping the person buried in the garden?" "Sarah, it's okay. I'll talk to Eugene." Sarah slipped away and ran to my brother, grabbing his hand and pulling him toward the flower bed. Seeing the look on my brother's face, the nose, Sarah's determination spoke volumes. "Sarah, do you see something by the flower bed?" Sarah looks up at my brother, tilting her head. "Yeah, Eugene, can't you see? We need to help them quickly. They're calling for Ruby, asking for her." This caught both my brother and me off guard, and we exchanged surprised glances. Ruby was still engrossed in conversation with Mom. Ruby's name? Right here. My brother and I approached the flower bed. Upon closer inspection, the soil Sarah pointed to had a slightly different color, as if it had been disturbed before. A shiver ran down my spine as a chilling thought crossed my mind. What should we do, Eugene? We can't just ignore what Sarah said. Not because she's a child, but because it's Sarah. My brother fetched a small gardening spade from the back of the house. It seemed inadequate for digging, but it was all we had. When we tapped the soil, it felt unnaturally hard, as if something had been compacted to conceal it. My brother, perhaps frightened, was cautious and couldn't apply much force with the spade. Impatiently, Sarah grabbed the spade from him. "Eugene, you're not good at this. Let me do it." "Sarah, wait," I said, reaching out to stop her. But Ruby grabbed Sarah's wrist before I could react. Ruby had approached unnoticed and squatted down to Sarah's level, smiling brightly. "Hey, Sarah, don't touch my special flower garden." Relieved at Ruby's cheerful demeanor, I pulled Sarah closer. "That's right, Sarah. You can't touch things without permission. Sorry, Ruby." "No problem, but don't touch it again. Ever." I sensed an unusual intensity in Ruby's demeanor. I lowered my head again, attempting to escape to my mother, Yvonne, with Sarah in tow. But Sarah pointed at the flower bed once more and exclaimed, "Look, that person is watching Ruby over there." "Sarah, you might scare Ruby with that talk. Please don't say such things." Whenever Sarah said something like this before, it left people pale and trembling. I imagined Ruby must be terrified to hear such things about our new home. "Apologies, Ruby. It's just a misunderstanding by Sarah." I tried to make amends, glancing at Ruby's face. Despite any dislike I harbored for her, I felt sorry for frightening her. I thought I needed my brother Eugene to smooth things over, but Ruby's expression caught my breath. Instead of fear, her eyes were wide with anger. "Sarah, is someone really watching me?" "Yes, and they're asking for your help," Sarah replied. Ruby simply scoffed and smirked, but her eyes betrayed no amusement. For some reason, Ruby's expression filled me with dread, and I shivered. "I'm sorry, Ruby. It's fine. Just kids being kids," Ruby dismissed, though her tone lacked warmth. Eugene swiftly intervened between me and Ruby, diffusing the tension for the moment. We entered the new house with our parents and settled onto the plush new couch. "Wow, it's so comfy," Sarah exclaimed. Her spirits lifted in the new surroundings as she sank into the couch happily. It seemed she had completely forgotten the earlier incident, and I felt relieved. We ordered some sushi for takeout, chatting, and enjoying the meal. Sarah must have been tired from all the excitement because before long, she had fallen asleep on the couch. "Would you like to take her upstairs to bed? Should Eugene carry her?" "Really? Thank you. That would be helpful. We still have some time before we head back. It might be better than her sleeping in the busy living room." Initially, I thought so too, but then I had a bad feeling. "I think it's fine. She might feel lonely waking up alone." "Oh, she's already 5, isn't she? She'll be fine. She can sleep here." "Yvonne, you're a bit overprotective, aren't you?" Ruby murmured, smoothly returning to the conversation with my brother and parents. Despite the brief exchange, I couldn't stop sweating. After a while, Sarah woke up. "It's almost time to leave." We agreed with our dad and started preparing to go home. As I cleaned up the table and washed the cups, my daughter tugged on my clothes. "Hey, Mom, are we leaving now?" "Just a little longer, okay? We'll be leaving soon." "You're being impatient." Maybe it was because she had just woken up, but Sarah seemed a bit cranky. I didn't want to deal with a tantrum right now, so I decided to ask my mother for help. "Mom, could you please rinse these?" "Sarah is getting grumpy." My mother hurried over, but Ruby blocked her. "Then how about Sarah and I play in the yard while we wait?" "In the yard? Let's do that." My daughter lit up at the idea of going outside. More than that, I was surprised that Ruby invited her to play. She wasn't known to be fond of children, so I was puzzled but grateful. "Thank you, Ruby, but we're getting ready to head home." "It's just until you leave." "It's fine." "Come on, Sarah, let's go." "Yeah." Sarah cheerfully replied, taking Ruby's hand as they left. "It's odd. Ruby isn't usually interested in children," Eugene remarked, watching them go with a puzzled expression. "I know, right? Sarah and Ruby have met many times, but I've never seen them play together." Sarah isn't shy around strangers and would happily approach Ruby, but I always thought Ruby kept her distance. Yet today, Ruby was the one who initiated. Something felt off. "I'm going outside too," I announced, rushing out in a hurry. Sarah was squatting in front of the flower bed, engaged in conversation. Ruby was nowhere to be seen. Intrigued, I slowed my pace and hurried over to her. Then, in the next moment, I witnessed Ruby swinging a baseball bat at Sarah's head with all her strength. It was a terrifying moment. I grabbed my daughter's arm, and we both stumbled backward. A metallic clang reverberated through the yard as the bat struck where Sarah had been just moments before. Eugene and my parents rushed outside upon hearing the noise. "What was that, Ruby?" Eugene, shocked at the sight of Ruby holding the bat, inquired. My heart raced as I held Sarah tightly. It had been too close. If I had been a moment later, Sarah could have. I couldn't even bring myself to think about it. I glanced up at Ruby, her expression a mix of anger and perhaps indifference. "What happened?" Eugene asked suspiciously. "Ruby, did you try to hit Sarah with the bat?" "I can't believe it." Eugene approached Ruby in disbelief. "Is it true, Ruby? Why would you?" Ruby simply smirked. "Come on, Yvonne, it was just a joke." Anger surged within me, and I retorted, "A joke? Are you serious?" If that had hit her, do you realize what could have happened? It wouldn't have been a mere injury. As I spoke, I noticed something horrific. The end of the baseball bat was stained with something dark red. Catching my gaze, Ruby exhaled. "Sarah started it, didn't she?" She shouldn't have said what she did. My eyes were drawn involuntarily to the flower bed. Could it be true? Was there really someone buried beneath, as my daughter had claimed? Fear gripped me, making my teeth chatter. My brother, concerned, kept me and Sarah away from Ruby. "What's going on, Ruby?" "It's nothing serious, just a joke. Maybe I went too far." My brother gazed at Ruby for a moment, then decisively went to the back of the yard. He grabbed a small shovel and started digging up the flower bed Sarah had pointed out earlier. "Hey, Eugene, what are you doing?" Ruby tried to intervene, but she couldn't stop my brother. He kept digging until he unearthed something, leaving him speechless and clutching his head. Ruby collapsed weakly beside him. "Eugene, Yvonne, call the police," he said urgently. "Quickly take Sarah and go home." From my brother's unusual behavior, I realized Sarah's words were true. He had found something Sarah had mentioned. I immediately dialed the police. Surprisingly, Ruby remained subdued until the police arrived. She repeated, "It's all over," as if in a daze, but she didn't become furious or try to escape. Once the police arrived, I decided to stay with my brother while leaving my daughter with my parents. My mother was too frightened to accompany us, and although my father offered to stay, we would then be without a driver. "I'll be fine alone," I insisted, though it wasn't entirely true. I couldn't leave my brother by himself. "Sarah, listen to Grandma and Grandpa and wait here, okay?" "Okay, Mommy. Take care of Eugene too." "Of course." I couldn't gauge how much my daughter understood, but I reassured her with a smile. My brother appeared to be conversing calmly with the officer. I observed from a corner of the yard so as not to interfere. Suddenly, Ruby's voice erupted in anger. "I've already told you, I don't know anything. Fine, let's go to the station and I'll explain everything there." "You're just trying to blame me? I won't go." The officer looked puzzled by Ruby's outburst. A female officer attempted to grab Ruby's arm, but she shook her off and sought refuge behind my brother. "Eugene, help me." My brother, visibly flustered, held Ruby's shoulder but remained conflicted, neither embracing her nor pushing her away. "I didn't do anything wrong. It's a false accusation." Though my brother may have wanted to believe Ruby, her recent actions, like swinging a baseball bat at Sarah, suggested otherwise. "Is someone watching me?" "Yeah, they're asking for Ruby's help." Ruby's response was a cynical "ha," with no trace of a smile in her eyes. Her demeanor sent a chill down my spine, and I shuddered. "I'm sorry, Ruby. It's okay. It's just kid stuff." Eugene quickly intervened between me and Ruby, momentarily diffusing the tension. We retreated into the new house with our parents, settling onto the plush couch. Wow, it's so comfy. Sarah's mood seemed to brighten in the new surroundings as she happily sank into the couch. She appeared to have forgotten the earlier incident, bringing a sense of relief. We ordered some takeout sushi, engaging in light conversation while eating. Sarah must have been exhausted from all the excitement, as she soon drifted off to sleep on the couch. "Would you like to put her to bed upstairs? Should Eugene carry her?" "Really? Thank you. That would be helpful. We still have some time before we head back. It might be better than her sleeping in the busy living room." Initially, I thought so too. But then I had a bad feeling. "I think it's fine. She might feel lonely waking up alone." "Oh, she's already 5, isn't she? She'll be fine. She can sleep here." "Yvonne, you're a bit overprotective, aren't you?" Ruby murmured, seamlessly rejoining the conversation with my brother and parents. Despite the brief exchange, I couldn't shake off my nervousness. Soon after, Sarah woke up. "It's time to leave." We agreed with our dad and began preparing to head home. As I tidied up the table and washed the cups, Sarah tugged on my clothes. "Mom, are we leaving yet?" "Just a little longer, okay? We'll be leaving soon. You're being a bit impatient." Sarah seemed a bit cranky, perhaps due to just waking up. Not wanting to deal with a potential tantrum, I asked my mother for help. "Mom, could you please rinse these? Sarah is getting a bit grumpy." My mother hurried over, but Ruby blocked her. "How about Sarah and I play in the yard while we wait?" "In the yard? Yes, let's do that." Sarah was thrilled at the idea of going outside. I was surprised that Ruby invited her to play. "Thank you, Ruby, but we're getting ready to head home. It's just until you leave." "It's fine. Come on, let's go, Sarah." "Yeah," Sarah cheerfully replied, taking Ruby's hand, and they left. "It's odd. Ruby isn't usually fond of children," Eugene remarked, watching them go with a stunned expression. "I agree. Ruby and my daughter have met many times, but I've never seen them play together. Sarah isn't shy with strangers and would happily approach Ruby, but I always thought Ruby kept her distance. Yet today, Ruby was the one who initiated. Something didn't feel right to me. I decided to go outside too. I rushed out hurriedly. Sarah was squatting in front of the flower bed, engaged in conversation. Ruby was nowhere to be seen. Intrigued, I slowed my pace and ran over to her. Then, in the next moment, I witnessed Ruby swinging a baseball bat at Sarah's head with all her might. It was a terrifying moment. I grabbed my daughter's arm, and we both stumbled backward. A metallic clang reverberated through the yard as the bat struck where Sarah